Hi, and welcome back to art journaling. This is the accumulation of your whole class. And so at this point, what we're going to do is try and incorporate this back into your daily life. And what happens is that sometimes after doing a class, we kind of put it aside and say, that was nice. I really like being told what to do. But for now, I'm going to let it go. So what hopefully this will help you discover is how to incorporate it into your own practice, whether it's doing it in the morning or at night or spontaneously. It really doesn't matter as long as you take time and you dedicate some moments just for yourself. So today, what I'm going to ask you to do is take out everything you have for your kit. If you need to, stop this video and then go and grab some more things. Really what you're trying to do is just allow yourself to have all of the tools possible right in front of you so that you don't have to hesitate in your creativity, you don't have to think twice. So that might include something, if you don't have a kit from Let the Cat Go, it would be something like pastels, watercolor paint, acrylic paint, some markers, a permanent black ink marker, maybe magazines. We've done some collage in the past, so some people really enjoy that. And then even some poetry, if that's something that appealed to you. So what we're going to do for this class is that I'm going to move you through a few prompts and have you start to explore just your own creativity and whatever comes to mind. It's not going to be a really intense prompt for you, but it's really spending the time to complete the page. So today, to start off, we just need a pencil and a piece of paper from your journal. You might want a pen, but we're going to actually write a letter to ourselves. So we're going to start with making a space on the page that is contained. So sometimes when you have an empty page, it creates a little bit of anxiety because it's so big. So I like to start it by creating a place on the page that I have to write within. So I'm only going to create a little square. Mine's going to be up in the right-hand corner, and you're going to write a letter to your teenage self. And that letter is meant to just give encouragement or warning around maybe something that you had in your past that you wanted them to know at the time, but then also maybe some guidance and some wisdom about where you are today. And so just putting it down on paper in whatever way you like. Some people like to freely write. Some people will write a few words. That's okay. So that's how we're going to get started. Okay, so when we have a contained space, what I meant by that was you can make it an oval, a circle, whatever you like. But in my page, it's just going to be a small manageable rectangle. You don't have to make it pretty. And I'm going to write a letter to myself. I'll do it fairly lightly. You don't need to hear all the things that I would tell my teenage self, but we're going to fill this section here. When you're done that, remember that this is your journal and no one is coming to read it, but more importantly, we're actually going to cover it up. So go ahead and write to yourself a note. And if you need a little bit more time, you can pause the video and then keep writing. And if you want to write outside the box, go for that as well. Okay, so obviously you see a little bit of some loving words from me to me. What we're going to do now is just start to fill in, and we had talked about this before in our classes, fill in the white space. So this is a really big page. I'm going to fill in the white space and create a background. So don't be too concerned about your note. it's there, it's on the page, it's now permanent, and it's going to slowly disappear. So as we work, things will start to come to you and start to flow. And I really want to encourage you to really work on being in the moment. So if you feel like you need to doodle, then go ahead and do that. If you feel like you need color somewhere, then please add that as well. Okay? All right, so I am just going to start by applying lots of color to my page. So remember to use your techniques of using watercolor or acrylic if that's what you have, adding lots of water to your page, doing some darker spots and lighter spots, adding some different colors on top of each other, whatever feels good to you at that time. So if you're a bit nervous about covering up those letters, maybe leave it, or the letter to yourself, maybe leave it till the end. Maybe you're not ready to let that go yet. But so as we go, think about the shapes that you're starting to see come out in your painting, or in your, maybe it's drawing that you're starting with, or pastels. We start to see things within the colors or within the paper that can remind us of something. So maybe it's a symbol we had talked about in our last poetry session, the symbols of ourself. Potentially something is surfacing for you that you didn't consider before. So it's okay to change your mind on colors. It's okay to go over top, whatever you need to do. So obviously we need to let that dry a little bit. So I'm going to take this time now to sort of do an inventory with my supplies. So I've got my background, and I had just gone through some of my magazines that were close at hand and cut out. Today I just went for texture and cutting out different colors. And so I thought with the colors that I would use that background to actually cut out some shapes that came to me at the time. I also have my glittery pens that I really like drawing with, some just black ink, and then of course paper, just different kinds of paper. I've got some gold leaf, I've also got my pastels, and then my pencil crayons. They're always helpful as well. So if you need to, take a minute, go and get some more things, whatever you like. I'm just kind of thinking around my message, my letter at the time, that I would actually just like to really love that person right now and send some love to them. So I'm gonna actually use the red. I like the shininess of the magazine pages, and I'm gonna just start to cut out a few different hearts and lay them on. So this is just an example. Please, this is your own page, so you do what feels good to you. If you need some inspiration, you can watch as I do a little bit of my creation. But I really would like to encourage you to make this your own. So I've got some marbleized paper here. I'm actually just going to use that as it is. I'm just going to lay it maybe right in here. Yeah, I'll just put it up in the top corner. And then with my purples, I'm just going to cut them into strips, just for a different aesthetic or different texture happening on the page. So again, we've used symbolism of pictures of animals, or even pictures of people. If you wanted to get personalized in your journals, I take some old magazines, or old photographs, sorry, and sometimes cut out pictures of the people that I'm thinking about or want to remind myself of in the future. Sort of a modern day scrapbooking, I guess. So I'm just going to glue these down so that they're on my page. Now, one of the things about journaling is not to really, we talked about this way back at the beginning, was not to edit. Really don't concern yourself about what's happening in the moment. Just go with it, trust yourself, and try not to judge, because there's a reason that those things came up. You might not know them right at this second, but there's a reason that you wanted them in your page. So this one's going to end up being a little bit more loose and abstract than maybe some of our other pieces that we've done before. And that's up to you. That really is about how you're feeling today. Hopefully we aren't bringing up any issues too much, but if it is happening, then just lean into that. Really think about, why am I thinking about that right now? Why is it such an issue for me? So after I have my pieces pasted on, then I'm going to go back to using pastels and really exploring some of the doodling just to see what comes out of my brain as I'm working. So thinking about my letter to myself from many, many moons ago, what would I want that person to know now? Okay. Oops. Sometimes we rip pages. That's okay. Just gonna explore with these pastels and see how I can incorporate them. Remember, with pastel, try really hard not to blow on the pastel. Just creates a huge mess. So if you want some of your message to remain visible, that's okay. Some people really like to just cover that up. Really, I'll show you another one at the end that I did a little while ago, and I just didn't want really to have that message visible, so you can't see it at all. So remember, we talked about really early on, if you're stuck or you don't have an idea of what you want to do repetitive strokes. Do things that fill space, because it keeps your mind moving. It keeps you in a creative zone. And it might mean something to you later. Sorry about, I'm bumping the camera with my pen. About that. So as you're working, just go back and think about the original way that you got to the table today. How did you decide to open this video? And that's really going to be how you decide in the future. It's just like exercise or trying to break a habit or whatever it is that you're trying to do on a more regular basis, is really looking at what triggered you. What was the thing that made you open it? Was it the email that you got? So maybe you need a prompt or you need a reminder to do your art journaling. So maybe you could do that for yourself and set a timer that reminds you at a certain time each day, consider art journaling. Maybe it was something that you aren't quite sure how to process in your day and you sat down willing and ready to take that on in your art journaling. So recognizing that and saying, okay, maybe I need this form of expression. Maybe I need some other way to process my feelings, and I should do this on a more regular basis. Maybe some things in your journal are a little bit whimsical. Maybe they don't mean anything. That's okay. So this process of layering, of covering up, of exploring textures and shapes and collage is really art journaling at its best. It really is diving deep into a page and making sure that you spend time for yourself to explore what that means to you. When I talked about editing before, I want to really encourage you to explore in the future the process of doing an art journaling page and then the luxury of covering it up. So whether it's, white or black, or maybe it's another color, but going in with a color after you've done a ton of work and just playing with it. Maybe you don't cover it up. Maybe it's not something that appeals to you. However, there is this release or this relief of not being perfect that really appeals to me. It's really something that I think speaks also to my teenage self of I really wanted everything to be perfect when I was younger, and it can't be. So this adds to that message to myself. So when you think you're done, I'll zoom out here a little bit. When you think you're done, maybe just go back and apply another layer. Maybe it's coming back to it tomorrow or the next day and just kind of looking at how can I express this in a different way. So I'll show you another finished one of the same topic, a letter to myself, with a very similar message that I wrote, but a very different outcome. So the colors on that day were very different. Maybe the strokes or the doodling was very similar. You can definitely see my style in both of these. You can tell that it was from me or it's from my journal, just like you can tell handwriting, but it definitely had a different response to my message. So really what you're going for is just spending the time, really taking a look. And this one, really taking a look at the negative space. Where can I add something that really, after I filled those in, it created sort of a cloud effect that had me thinking about some other things in my message. So you really can change how you respond to your art by just letting yourself be a little bit more free. So I'm going to leave you to it because this is your way to start incorporating it into your own life, to be able to want to do things on your own time. And we've only been together for about 15 minutes, but hopefully you can spend the time and spend an hour doing this for yourself. So I really thank you and appreciate the time you spent with me doing art journaling, and hopefully you'll pursue this more. And if you'd like to, of course, at Let the Cat Go, we always have classes in the studio. So thanks very much, everyone.